Yeah,
Is my screen visible?
yeah, it's visible.
Okay. All right. So today, in the previous session, we discussed about comprehensions, in which we discussed about four types of comprehensions. One was the list comprehension, then set comprehension, third was the dictionary comprehension, and finally, we discussed about the generator comprehensions. So now we have already taken a step forward to discuss about the advanced topics. Now it's time to learn what are iterables and iterators in Python. Trust me, this is very important to understand what are iterators and iterables, because if you don't know what are they, then you will not able to understand how loops executed, how basically loops gets executed in Python. So you should have a very good understanding of what is a difference between iterable and iterators in Python. So before learning advanced functions such as map, reduce, and all of Python, we should understand what is an iterator and iterable in Python. So iterable is an object which one can iterate over. Let's go line by line. So iterable is an object which can one can iterate over. So iterables in Python can be any, you can say, sequence. It can be string, list, tuple, set, dictionary. Any collection or any sequence on which you can iterate over. Basically, the type variable that can be used in the loops, in the while loop or maybe for loop, those are known as iterables. Let's suppose there is a list and you are writing for I in list, and you are printing something or maybe manipulating something under the loop. So basically you are trying to iterate over each element of that list, right? So list becomes an iterable in this case. Similarly, you can iterate over strings, you can iterate over sets, dictionaries, as well as tuples. So all of these data types are known as iterables in Python. I think this is very simple. Just all the collections or the sequences are known as iterables. Okay. Now coming to the second term, which is iterator. This is a bit tricky, so we have to understand what is that. It generates an iterator object when passed to iter method. Now let's again take an example. We have a list which have like four elements: 1, 2, 3, and 4. These are four different elements stored in a list. So this is an example. Let's suppose I'm running a loop on this list. I'm writing for I in L. Maybe I can write it somewhere so that that becomes much clearer. So I'm writing, there are four elements: 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now I'm writing for I in L, and maybe I'm printing this. So we now understand that this L is an iterable in this case. And when we run a loop, basically in on an iterable, so L is a iterable. When we are running a loop on any iterable, it creates a iterator object in the backend. I'm repeating again. When we run a loop in run a loop in Python using an iterable, which is L in this case, it creates an iterator object in the backend through the iter method. There is a method that gets invoked automatically once we run this loop in the backend, and in the backend itself, it will create a iterator object. Now, iterator object is created. We have to now extract each element from this list. So on the first iteration, 1 should be extracted. In the second iteration of this loop, 2 should be extracted, and similarly third element and fourth element should be extracted respectively. Now when we already have a iterator object in the backend using iter method, so using the iterator object now, it will run next function on the iterator object. So every time using next function, it will pick up the values. So in the first iteration, it will run next method on the iterator object, so it will extract the value 1. Next time, once the processing is done for the first iteration, it will again run next method on the second element. So it will pick up second element, which is 2. Similarly, 3 and 4. And next method automatically runs the number of times as per the length of the elements. Basically, there are 4 elements in this list. So Python first calculates how many elements are there in the specific list and runs next method on the iterator object that much times equal to the elements of the list, basically, so that you don't get error. And now question comes, how this loop stops? The answer I already told, that Python already know how many elements are there in the list or maybe any sequence or any iterable. So it just execute the next function up to that specific number only. Once it has reached to the limit, maybe here the number of elements are 4. Once it has executed next method 4 times, it will automatically stop the execution of the for loop. So this is the basic idea, like how for loop works under the hood. So again, there is an iterable, which is L in this case. We are iterating over it. And then once we run this loop, iter method gets invoked, and iter method uh, calls this iterable in the as the argument and creates a iterator object in the backend. Using the iterator object, it executes next function multiple times to extract the values in each iteration. So this is the overall logic behind this for loop and all of these terminologies. Now we should continue to read about the theory. So iterator is an object which is used to iterate over an iterable object using next method. Iterators have next method which returns the next item of the object. Every iterator is an also iterable, but not every iterable is an iterator. So this is important, that um, every iterator is also an iterable, that we can also iterate directly on iterator objects, but not every iterable is an iterator. We cannot, uh, you can say, iterate over iterables directly. We have to create an iterator object first. Then only we can fetch out the elements from that iterable. Maybe these terms are a little confusing, that because of the names, iterables and iterators. But yeah, this is how it works. For example, a list or a tuple is an iterable, but a list is not an iterator. An iterator can be created from an iterable. As I already told, an iterator can be created from an iterable by using the function iter. Any questions in this theory? Anyone?
No, Kashish.
Okay, so is this confusing or is it clear?
Yeah, fine. It's clear.
Okay. So let's suppose I have a, let's take some examples. When running a loop, how value is called from each iteration of a collection or range. We have this list containing 3 elements, Delhi, Noida, and Gurgaon, and the collection name is cities. So this is the list. When we are running this loop, we have 3 elements, Delhi, Noida, and Gurgaon. Okay, let me clear the output. So when a loop is executed, this for statement calls iter on the object. So every time we run a for loop, it will use the iter method on this iterable object to create an iterator, which is supposed to loop over. If this call is successful, the iter call will return an iterator object. I think I've already explained this, but let's read about the last line. The next method will raise a stop iteration exception if there are no further elements available to be processed. As I've already told you, that first Python calculates the number of elements, then only it executes the next method that much times. But if there are no further elements available, the next method will raise an stop iteration exception. The for loop will terminate as soon as it catches a stop iteration exception. So this is how uh, for loop will be stopped once it has seen the stop iteration exception. Okay, so now talking about the next example, let's call the next method using the next built-in function. So this will now give you a flavor how for loop gets executed in the backend. So this is the raw code that you can see that gets executed once we run the for loop. In the above loop, we have used for I in cities, print I. Now, without using for loop, we are going to print these values one by one. Let's see how. Let's again recall the procedure. So this is the iterable, in this case, cities, which is the list. And now we are creating an iterator object by using the iter method on this iterable, which is cities. So by using iter method, and cities is an argument to this iter method or the function, an iterator object will be created. I've just given the name. You can give any name here. And finally, I'm going to print this object that I've created and checking its type. Let's run this. So it has created a list iterator because we have passed a list as the input. So we have passed a list in as the input. So that's why it is providing a list iterator object. And we can see the type of this object is list underscore iterator. So it indeed belongs to the class list underscore iterator in this case. Now, this is the first step that we have taken. So we have already created the iterator object using the iterable. Now it's time to fetch out the values one by one. So in the first iteration, we should get the value Delhi. So I'm going to print next of iterator object. So it has printed Delhi. Okay, so let me take this in the next cell. Now I'm going to run next function twice. It is fetching the next element, which is Noida, and finally Gurgaon. So this is how for loop gets executed in the backend. First of all, it creates a iterator object, and then on this iterator object, it calls the next function that much times. Now we should understand how for loop gets stopped once it sees the exception. So here we have already run next function 3 times. We have already extracted all the values. Now this iterator object will be blank. It will not have any other elements to be processed. If we try to run an additional next method on the same object, we should get an error. It is running. So yeah, it is raising an exception, stop iteration, that it has not found any other element to be processed. So an exception has been raised by Python. And if we were doing the same thing in the for loop, it must have raised the same exception as well. I hope this is clear to you. Okay, moving to the next example. Let's also try to create. Okay, one more thing, that if I use next function directly on the iterable rather than the iterator, it will raise a exception that list object is not an iterable, because we already know list is an indeed iterable. Okay, let's also try to create numbers as iterator. We should get an error. We know that we cannot run the loop on the numbers, so this is not possible. So it should give us an error that iterations are not possible on the numbers data type, something like that. Let's check. So I'm going to create a number which is num is equal to 1 2 3, and we're creating the iterator object using iter method on this number. It is saying that int object is not iterable. So that means iter function cannot run on numbers because numbers are not iterables. So except numbers, all the data types that we have discussed till date are iterables, such as strings, tuple, list, set, and dictionary. Now let's again run a loop for I in num, print I. So when I'm running a loop, this will also raise the same exception that we have seen here, which is type error. So even we have seen the iter method is raising an exception. So same method will be invoked in the for loop as well. So it should raise the same exception that can be seen here. I think now you understand that for loop indeed runs this iter method as well as next function in the backend. This was just to prove that this concept is there in the loops. Okay, both above cells are generating same error. This proves that whenever we run a loop for or while, it checks if the object is an iterable or not. If it is an iterable, then the object gets converted into an iterator, and then only it runs multiple iterations of loop by calling each element one by one. Okay, moving forward. If you still want to iterate on integers, you would have to convert it into string first. So here, if you still want to iterate, you can create the given number to the string by using the str function and then print I. Now this will work. Okay, so the last function is, so this is a user-defined function that I've created, and this is just to show that each of the different values that I'm taking as the input, such as a number, a list, tuple, then dictionary, and then string, float, and finally set. So we will check which of these are iterables and which of these are not. For that, I've created a user-defined function using def, then the function name, and then the argument. We have not studied what is a try except block, but you can ignore for this. Uh, I'm not going to explain this for now because this is a future session topic, but just focus on the elements that I'm passing here. So here I'm running a loop in, so the first element in this list is 6, which is a number. Then this is a list. Then this is a tuple, as these are these circular brackets. Then there is a dictionary, strings, and then the float number. And finally, we have a set. And we are printing the type of element. I mean, it will pick each element one by one. We'll check its type and we'll print here. And then we are passing the exact element values here. And it will check iterable element if it is true or not. So it will be returning true or not based on this function that we are calling here. Let's run this and see the output. First of all, we can see that we have received all the data types for each of the elements that has been passed in this list. And then we are getting false or true respectively. For the first number, which is integer, or you can say a number, we are getting false because this is not a iterable. However, a list, tuple, all of those are iterables except this float number, which is also not an iterable. So this was just to show that which data types are iterables and which are not. Any questions on this topic?
In the above statement, why, like, in fact, this is a complete list, right? 6, 3, comma ABC. This is also a list,
Right.
and tuple is also a list in this case. So why 6 is not considered as an this thing iterable here?
So iterables are only those elements.
Is it taking individually?
Yes, yes, it is taking individually. So first of all, it is taking just 6. Then in the second, it is taking this complete list. Then it is taking complete tuple. Then this dictionary. Then this word Delhi, which is a string, and then this number, and then set. So it will check if this is a number, right? We already know that it belongs to int class. If I run any loop on the int class, this is not possible because we cannot iterate over numbers. However, we can iterate over a list, then that's why it is showing it us as true. Similarly for tuples, but for float, we are getting as the answer false.
Yeah, okay. Fine.
Okay. So we will just cover one function today. Rest, we will talk about the other functions tomorrow. Okay. Let's talk about the first advanced function, which is enumerate. A lot of times when dealing with iterators, we also get a need to uh, keep a count of iterations, which can also be used to get index of elements most of the times. What happens is, suppose I'm running a loop on maybe hundreds of elements, and at specific index, maybe once it has reached to the 56th index, I have to put a condition that after this index, some other processing should happen. And maybe after 90th index, I want to specify that uh, on the on all the elements after 90th index, some other operation should happen. So to create this kind of logic, we should first get the index value. Uh, to get the index value, that is not straightforward. We have to create a empty variable as the counter. Then we have to iterate through the value of that counter by doing +1. And yeah, so let me show that example first. Okay. Yeah. So let's suppose we have this example. Cities is equal to Delhi, Noida, and Gurgaon. Let's suppose I want to also find out the index of each of these elements. Directly, it is not possible. I have to run through the loop for cities, for city in these cities, and I'm starting a counter here. I is equal to 0, and I'm then printing city is at index I, because I know city, the first city in the first iteration, it will be at 0th index, and then I am incrementing the value of I to increase the counter, so that next time for the next element in the next iteration, it should pick up the value 1. Similarly, in the next iteration, it should pick up the value 2. If I'm going to run this, you can see Delhi is at index 0, Noida at 1, and Gurgaon at 2. We can create the indexing like this, but it is possible that but this is not the best approach that you should use, because we already have an advanced function which is enumerate, which helps us to receive the index as well as the original element from each of the collections or the sequences. So by using the enumerate function, when we run the loop, we will get the index of each element as well as the actual element value. But here in this case, we just get the actual value of the element, like Delhi, Noida, and Gurgaon. Let's go to the upper section and discuss about its theory. So Python eases the programmer's task by providing a built-in function, which is enumerate. Enumerate method adds a counter to an iterable and returns it in a form of enumerate object. Similarly, in the above section, we discussed about the iterators. We were getting the iterator object. Here, once we run the enumerate function, we will get the enumerate object. And enumerate object can be used directly in for loops or to be converted into list or tuples. We will see this. Don't bother about this theory. But the syntax is very simple. We have to use the enumerate function, then give the iterable. It can be any string, list, tuple, etc. And this is the optional argument, which is start is equal to 0. By default, this function takes value of start as 0. But if you want to start the counter, maybe from value 10, from value 15, or maybe from value 10,000, you can do that. In each iteration, it will increment the value respectively. So, but this is the optional argument. However, iterable is the okay. Start is the optional argument, but iterable is mandatory argument. Okay, so let's proceed to the examples. We will use enumerate function to create an enumerate object. So again, the example is same. Cities, we have 3 cities, and I'm creating an object name as obj, and I'm using enumerate function on cities. Cities is a list. And finally, if I'm going to print this, print obj, I'm getting the output as an enumerate object. However, it is not listing each of the elements, even the index or the values. I'm just getting an enumerate object. An important point to note here is that once enumerate object has been consumed, it returns null value afterwards. See in example below where list is consuming all the elements of enumerate object. So let's see. Okay, we already have this enumerate object in place. Now, once we convert this enumerate object into a list or maybe a tuple, for the first time, it has consumed the enumerate object. The enumerate object subsequently will be blank. You will not be able to get any more elements from the same object. In short, once the enumerate object is consumed by any of the list or tuple, it cannot be reconsumed. That will be blank. You will get the null values. So in this case, we have the, you can say, filled enumerate object. So once I'm creating this list, maybe I can pick this tuple and place it in the different cell. So here I'm going to create this list using this obj object, which I created here. which stores the enumerate object actually. If I run this, we can see that we are getting the values along with the indexes. So the counter is by default 0 for Delhi, and it has incremented to 1 for Noida, and similarly 2 for Gurgaon. Now, once I already ran this statement to create this list, now enumerate object, which was here, it is blank now. If I'm going to create a tuple using the same object, I should get the null values, which is there. So it is very important to remember that once the values has been consumed from the enumerate object, you will not get the values in the next run. It will be blank. Okay, let's take the next example. We have to create two enumerate objects in order to process values as a list and a tuple. So here I was
Kashish,
getting
you
the
mean to say,
uh-huh.
Kashish, you mean to say that the enumerate function has to be used only once
Yep.
For a list or else a tuple? Like we cannot use enumerate couple of times for a single object.
Right, it can only be used once. If you want to create if you want to process multiple times, you have to create different enumerate objects using the same iterable, which I'm going to
Okay.
do that in the next example.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So to overcome this challenge, which was here, that we are not getting the enumerate object to consume multiple times. Here we can create multiple enumerate objects using the same syntax, enumerate and the cities, which is the list, and we can create the objects by different names, obj and obj1. You can give any name, and I can print this obj as well as obj1. So these two enumerate objects have been created now, and we can see the address of these enumerate objects are different. So that means these are two different enumerate objects, which now we can consume. So obj I'm consuming to create a list, but however obj1 is being consumed to create a tuple. But okay, so let me run this. So it is giving the same output, but to see its effect, what we can do, uh, along with the iterable, we can pass the start value is equal to maybe 4. So now for obj1, the values will be starting from 4. However, for obj, it will start the values from 0. So in the below cell, like for tuple, we should get the values as 4 Delhi, 5 Noida, and 6 Gurgaon. So yes, it can be seen that counter has been updated and it is processing respectively. So is it clear, Chirag?
Yeah, it's fine. Got it.
Oh, okay. Moving to the next example, the second parameter argument for enumerate is start. Okay, I've already explained, so I'm just going to run this. This is the same example, and I have used the same start value. Let me change it to 5 and 8. So now we will get 5 for the first start value, first enumerate object, and 8 for the second enumerate object. Now, if we want to return index of each element for a list, using for loop, we can perform below operation. So what we have done till now, we have not used for loop. We are just creating the list or tuple out of any enumerate object. But actually, enumerate object helps us to run the for loop, as I've taken the example previously, the same example. So here we are manually calculating the counter and incrementing it based on the iterations. However, we can directly fetch out the index from this cities. Let's see how. Okay, for that I can copy this and add a new cell. So what we can do, I can write for I comma city in enumerate cities, and I can remove this counter because I don't have to initialize now and I don't have to increment it now, and that's done. We have to just write I comma city. This can be any name, because enumerate function will fetch out two values. One is the counter and one is the actual value from this list. So in the first iteration, we will get 0 comma Delhi. So it will be inserted into I and city. So I will hold the value 0. City will hold the value as Delhi. So then I'm printing city is at index I, which is 0. If I run this, we are getting the same output as we are getting the in the above cell. I hope it is clear. And moving to the next example, Create a function which can find the search values index locations from a collection. Also find the number of occurrences of the search value. So this is interesting. Let's suppose I have this list which says Python is awesome. That is why we are learning Python. And let's suppose the search value is Python. The task in this program is to find out the indexes at which Python is located. In this list, we have multiple values. The program will search at which index this Python word is coming. Also, it will find out the number of occurrences that is there in this list for the same keyword, which is Python. So the logic says we have to create the new list in which all the indexes will be stored. We have to initialize a counter, which is cnt is equal to 0. And we are using enumerate function here on the list that I'm passing in the function call, and it will fetch out the index comma I, which is index will hold the index value, I will hold the actual value, and then in the first iteration it will receive the value as Python in I. So it will check if I is equal to the search value. Search value is the second argument of this function, which is Python. If it is same, which is equal, it will append, like in the search value list, which is empty right now, it will append the index of it. Index is fetched using enumerate function from this list. So 0th index is there for Python, so it will be appended to this list. Similarly, it will happen for each iteration, and the counter will be incremented in each iteration as well. Finally, this counter is used to find out, calculate the number of occurrences of the values Python in the same list. And I'm just returning the statement that search value, which is Python, is present at these indexes, which is search value list, and then the total number of occurrences are the counter that we have created. Let's run this and check the output. Search value Python is present at these indexes 0, 9. So at 0, we are getting the Python keyword, and at 9th index, we are getting the Python keyword, and the total number of occurrences are 2. This is just the one way to achieve this task. The another way can be using list comprehensions. Solve the problem using list comprehension. Again, the list is same, the search value is same. The search value list, which is the actual task, we have to find out the number of indexes. So what I'm writing, index, we have to find the index actually. For index comma I, the logic is exactly same that we have used above. In enumerate L, if search value is equal to I. In the first iteration, it will pick I value as Python. It will match if search value, which is Python, is equal to Python, then only it will fetch the index of it and will append it into the new list, which is search val list. Once it has run all the iterations, it will find the length of the search value list. Suppose there are 2 elements, it will find out that the length is 2 of this list, and that will be actually the number of occurrences of that specific search value. So that will be stored in CNT. And again, I'm using the same print statement that I have used above. So the output will be exactly same in this case, but the approach is different. This is using list comprehension. Finally, we can also achieve the same thing using lambda functions. In lambda functions also, we are taking the 2 arguments, which is L comma search value. L is the same list, search value is same value. Then I'm printing the same statement, search value this, but here for this search value list, where it stores the indexes, I'm using the complete list comprehension here directly in under the lambda function. And the total number of occurrences are this complete list comprehension again. And on top of it, I'm using length function to find out the number of occurrences of this list. So we will again get the same output. So this function is created. Now we have to call it. So list is same, search value is same. We are calling the x lambda function, and we are passing on the arguments as L and search value. So L is this list and search value is this value, which is Python. By running this, again, we are getting the same output. So we have just discussed 3 approaches to perform the same task using lambda functions, list comprehension, and normal user-defined functions. So this was all about enumerate. And I think this is all for today. we will continue to discuss about more functions tomorrow. So any questions in any of these examples?
No questions.
Okay, but I hope that you have to practice a lot for these concepts, because this is a bit tricky actually.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's all for today. So let's meet tomorrow to continue with the next function, that is map, and we have some other
Sure.
functions as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So thanks everyone for joining. Let's
Okay.
meet tomorrow. Bye. Good night.
Thank you guys. Bye bye. Good night. Take care.